So, I have been tasked with fixing up this old netbook from 2010. I always found these things fascinating as a concept back when they were new, but they tended to use really underpowered hardware. Unfortunately, this unit was no exception. So, as soon as I took a look at it, I noticed that, like most netbooks, it has an Intel Atom processor. These low-end CPUs are single core, and they struggle to even run Windows 7 Starter. But on top of that, this thing doesn't even turn on. Plugging it in yields no response whatsoever. I thought that maybe getting a new charger might help, but it didn't. So, I'm up for the challenge. Let's figure out what's needed to make it work again. So first, we'll go over the basics of the netbook's specs. It's an ASUS Eee PC, that's 3 E's, 1001P model netbook that contains an Intel Atom N270 CPU clocked at 1.6 GHz. It also has 2 GB of RAM, which is the maximum amount of memory it supports. For inputs and outputs, it has a VGA port, 3 USB ports, Ethernet, Wi-Fi, headphone and microphone jacks, and an SD card slot. It also has a built-in webcam and microphone, but given their age, I'm almost afraid to see how they work. As was common at the time, these netbooks were designed for full compatibility with the 32-bit version of Windows 7, but they were so underpowered that most users tended to install Windows XP instead. XP is far less demanding of hardware resources than Windows 7 is, given that it is 8 years older. This unit appears to have shipped with Windows XP Starter Edition, since it has a certificate of authentication for Windows XP Starter Edition on the bottom. But for the sake of software compatibility in this modern age, we're going to try Windows 7 Starter and see if the experience is as rough as people claim it is. As I said before, it gives no response whatsoever when plugged in. Some users online have said that they experienced this same problem, and that the only way to fix it was to replace the motherboard. So I found a replacement online. Let's swap them out. Alright, that was annoying, but it's swapped. So let's plug it in, turn it on, and see what we can get. Alright, we got something. It works. Now let's put the casing back together. Looking good, very good. Now, let's set it up on a desk and really try to use it. Okay, looking good so far. I have to input the BIOS settings. So it appears to be stuck in a boot loop. My guess is it needs a new hard disk. I suppose that means I should swap out this disk with a new one.
One eternity later.
Okay, I just swapped it out and installed Windows 7 Starter. Here it is. I've also installed a few other apps which we can use to test things out. Unfortunately, while I was able to find software that is compatible with this operating system, I found that trying to do almost anything would cause the entire machine to shut down. The system appears to be overwhelmed from even just trying to complete the simplest tasks, like installing software or running software. I figured this might be a thermal shutdown, so I downloaded Core Temp to try and keep an eye on CPU temperatures. While trying to install a camera program just to try and test out the potato webcam that this thing comes with, the computer shut down, despite never even reaching 70 degrees Celsius. The computer would spontaneously shut down whether I was plugged into AC power or not. I even tried running it without the battery and still it crashed. There were rare instances where it did work though. A friend and I were able to watch a YouTube video, if you could believe that.
I'm honestly shocked that we can watch this.
So am I.
It's like skipping frames, but
It's pretty smooth
you're like
overall.
watching a video and the computer isn't like shutting down.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it took like 2 hours to open the
man.
browser up
Oh man.
and get to YouTube, but once we got to YouTube, it will actually play something.
think I know a good way to really get this thing to shut down.
Oh, just open Firefox. That's all you need to
We
do.
could do that. I was also gonna say let's go to Twitch.
No, don't go to Twitch.
That would definitely be too much. That was too much for my old desktop.
I'm honestly shocked that we can watch this.
Likewise.
I was also able to play Doom 95, so at least it's good for something. That is, it would be if it could play a video file off the hard drive without shutting down. I then figured maybe Windows XP would be better suited for this machine. Maybe it would be less taxing on the hardware. Unfortunately, I couldn't even get past the initial stages of installation. At that point, I decided to hang it up and call it a night. So, this thing is well beyond its lifespan. Netbooks were never made to last, and many users might argue that they struggled to perform even when they were brand new. It's really unfortunate that I can't get this thing working, because with its small size, it would have been a suitable computer for someone to take to class and type up their notes with. But unfortunately, I wouldn't trust this thing to last through a lecture without shutting down for seemingly no reason. Now, that's a real downer, but I do have another computer that I want to tackle. So, this is another ASUS laptop, the K53E. This one is a regular consumer-grade computer with an Intel Core i3, but it also has issues. If I plug it in, it repeatedly switches between being connected to power and not. It's unusable in this state because it will power off after only a minute or so. If I remove the battery, I can use the computer just fine, but it still gets pretty hot around the power connector. Not to mention, we gotta be able to actually use this battery. So I took the computer over to my friend James to see if he could help. James took the computer apart and assessed the situation. Someone had clearly attempted to make this exact same repair before.
Yeah, they did a really shitty job.
He took out a soldering iron and attempted to resolder the charging port back to the board.
So the first thing I'm doing is applying flux, which will help the solder stick to the metal. Handy dandy flux pen. And the next thing I'm going to do is apply a little bit of solder to all 4 of the connections on the back here. So I am replacing the thermal compound on the CPU. It appears the last time this was worked on, not enough was put on. And it's all dried up from being old anyways, so. So the proper amount of thermal paste is a pea-sized amount, right on the center of the die of the CPU. While I'm in here, I'm also going to clean out the fan. Looks freaking gross.
So you're putting tape on it?
Yeah, there was originally tape on it. I'm putting a little bit of tape to fix where I had to take it off to clean up the fan.
Okay.
full charge, but does that mean charging? It went from 3 to 4%, so I'm assuming
Yeah.
it's charging.
Yeah, I think you did it.
Yay.
Because here's what would, if you had failed, what it would be doing right now is every like second or half second it would be flipping back and forth between like plug in now you're about to die and we're charging.
Okay.
So the fact that it's now like consistently charging and not doing that means that you succeeded.
Yay.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you.
Oh, you bet.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
He was successful. The port now functions as intended, and we are able to use the computer normally, running on both AC power and battery.
So when I got this laptop to work on, I was told that it had problems charging. So I took a look at the charging port on the motherboard of the laptop and found that a couple of the solder connections to the motherboard were not fully seated onto the motherboard. There was a couple cold solder joints where that connection is made into the motherboard. So I took my soldering iron and reheated all of the solder joints, applied new solder, put it back together, and found that that fixed the problem. So once the laptop was fully put back together, we installed a new solid-state hard drive, reinstalled Windows, and now this laptop is ready to go.
So, like he said, after upgrading the hard drive to an SSD, we got Windows 10 installed via USB, and the laptop was ready to go. If you're installing Windows 10 on any PC made after 2009, be sure to check your computer for this sticker, because you can use your Windows 7 Certificate of Authentication to activate Windows 10. Once we finished the installation and searched around for some drivers, I took it home and upgraded the 6GB of memory to 8. It was also missing one of its rubber feet, so I put a new one in its place. That thing is not going anywhere, and with these new hardware upgrades, this computer will perform better than it ever did before. I'm disappointed that we couldn't get the netbook working, but at least this one has been restored to perfect working order. Huge thanks to James for restoring this thing to a working state. This computer is more than good enough for web browsing and typing up documents. Most laptops you'll find are also great computers for emulators and older Windows games. Doom ran great, obviously, and I was also able to play Grand Theft Auto San Andreas on it. Game Boy Advance emulation was flawless, and I even tried Nintendo DS games on it too. I remember using laptops from this time period, and while many struggled to run DS emulators, this one actually was able to do so. At that point, I got curious and I tried out Dolphin, the GameCube and Wii emulator. While Super Smash Bros. Melee initially looked promising in a simple 1v1 match, it really struggled with some of the more high-demanding stages, and they were even worse with 4 players. I really wouldn't recommend it. But hey, it's a decade old, so in all honesty, most users would probably just want to use it for YouTube and word processing. And with these specs, it should be more than sufficient for basic tasks for many years to come. So on that note, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.
Oh god, now it's going to be Cortana.
Hey, I'm Cortana. I'm here to help set up your device. A little sign in here, a touch of Wi-Fi there, and you'll be all ready to go.
Hi there, I'm Cortana, and I'm here to help. A little sign in here, a touch of Wi-Fi there, and we'll have your PC ready for all you plan to do. Use your voice or the keyboard along the way, and if you'd like me to stay quiet, just select the little microphone icon towards the bottom of your screen.